For the letter N, we're gonna create a hook just like how we did with the letter N. We're gonna start in between the A and the top of the X line, and then drop it down to the bottom of the X line. This time around, we are simply going to hop over once and then flick. Okay? And then making sure that each downstroke is parallel with each other. Okay? All right. The letter O is going to start up top over here by the A line. And then we're going to walk it over down to the X line and then back up to the A line, creating a nice oval. And then we're going to create a loop around, and then you'll start to see, if you look closely, that it kind of resembles Donald Trump's weave. Okay. So if you have the nice little flick right there, just remember Donald Trump's weave. Yes. You know his little signature swoosh right over here? Yes. All right. Letter P, we're going to create a hook once again. And then we're going to bounce back up to the top of the A line and then close it off right at the top of the X line. And also gentle reminder to keep our letters all slanted, okay? Letter Q, we're going to start at the bottom of the X line. We're going to climb up to the very top and then head down to the bottom. But we're not going to quite close that oval off. Instead, we're going to create a loop and then flick back out. So it should low-key look like a very fancy number 2. And that is all there is to it. Okay? Letter R, we're going to create the letter P shape again. So starting off with a hook and up and back into the middle. Once you have created that part, all we need to do is to drop down a diagonal, not a horizontal line, but a diagonal line, and then flick it out. Okay, letter S is going to require us to start from the very bottom of the X line. We're going to climb up, and then once we reach to the A line, we're going to curve left. I'm going to curve left, create a loop, bring this down. Once it hits the bottom of the X line, you're going to push it back out. And then just like how we did for the letter G right here, how it goes back in, the same thing is going to do with the letter S. So we're going to scoop that back in. Okay. Yes, it does kind of look like the number 8. Okay. All right. And then I'm moving down to the next line because I ran out of space. All right, so the letter T has 3 variants. Woo!
I need water. Can I get water?
Real quick.
I get mama.
All right. So we're going to start with kind of the same as the letter F. We've got the nice little squiggle up top. And then we're going to climb up, down, and then swoosh out. And then find the midpoint, and then drop down the line. This is our first version. Okay, the second version is going to be similar start. So give it a nice squiggle up top. Find the midpoint, drop down the straight line, and then you're going to create a J stroke. Once you have created the J stroke, you're going to flick it back out the other direction. And this is our version 2. The last one is going to be like the version 2 of the letter F. So we're going to do this in one single stroke. So up, down, back up, loop, J stroke, and then flick.
Can you do the second one? The second key?
The second T?
Yeah.
Okay, second T is simply going to be the squiggle, find the midpoint, drop down the stem, J stroke, and then flick. Yep. All right. Letter U is going to be starting with a hook down, and then we're going to bounce back up, and then bring down the stem plus a flick. Okay. And then if you can notice some similarities, the letter U, if you flip it upside down, should look like your letter N. If your U and your N don't look the same, then we might need to practice some more. Okay. Letter V, you're going to start off with a hook down this way. We're going to create something similar with the letter U, except this time we want the stroke to end up over here. Okay, so this should be curved. Take note that the angle for the letter V is narrow compared to the angle for the letter U. So this one's definitely going to be wider than the V, okay? And then letter W is going to be utilizing both V's. So we're going to start off with a V, drop down the second V, and then it will simply end right over here with the same stroke, okay? And then...
Is it supposed to be like Y then or not?
What happened?
Like if the Y supposed to be, I mean W supposed to be Y then?
No, it's supposed to be like the V. So because we have two of these arches, the downward facing arches, we need them to have narrower angles. Because otherwise, if we use the same angle as the letter U, then it's going to be super, super wide. And we don't want that. Okay. Letter X. We're going to start off with a hook, except this time it's going to head slightly left leaning. Once you hit the bottom of the X line, you're going to flick it out. Then find the midpoint where it crosses through the top of the X line, and we are simply going to drop down the diagonal. Okay. If the first stroke is too left leaning, then you're gonna end up with a super, super wide X, okay? Letter Y is going to be starred because it's going to be covering A through D. So we're gonna start off with a hook, bring it down, and then back up. Then from here, you're gonna bring down the stem. Once you hit the D line, then you're going to curve back out and then flick. Finally, letter Z is also a descending capital, but we're gonna start at the bottom over here. We're gonna climb up and then back down, like a downward U shape. And then you're gonna bring this down, and then right where this curve crosses, intersects between the bottom of the X line, we're going to cross through that. Okie dokie.
No.
Does any no okie?
No.
Just dokie? Okay, does anyone need me to redo any of the letters, revisit any of the letters before we do individual practices? Are we all good?
Wait, can you do Y one more time?
The letter Y? Okay. So we're gonna start off with a hook and a cane. So you want to create something similar like the letter U. Bring down the stem. And then once it hits the D line, you're going to cross through where it intersects here. Okay? Anyone else?
Yeah,
Which one?
U.
The letter U? Okay. Draw out the cane and then climb back up. And then bring down the stem and then flick at the end. Okie dokie? Alrighty. So let's go on ahead and practice 3 more times from N through Z. All right, so we're gonna start with our letter A. And this is going to be, okay, cool. Let me bring it closer for you to, okay, there you go. Now, we're gonna start at the bottom of the X line, and then we're simply going to climb up like this, and then we're gonna go back down like one of those roller coasters, and then we're gonna bring the stem down and then we're gonna flick it right there. Okay. For the letter B, we're gonna start at the bottom over here. We're gonna climb up to the A line because it's an ascending letter. Then we're going to drop it down. We're going to make sure that this is as straight as possible, okay? It's not bending or anything. Yes?
Could you do A?
Sure, yes. Okay, so make sure that this is straight as possible, and then you're going to bring it back up to the top of the X line, and then we're going to flick it like that.
Is there
Huh?
Isn't there another way?
No.
There isn't?
Mm-mm.
I thought there was like this way. Hold on.
No. All right, so let's go over A and B one more time. Starting from the bottom over here, you're gonna climb up to the top of the X line. Then you're gonna move backwards, bring it down, come back up, complete the oval, and then you're gonna bring it down, and then you're gonna flick it. One more? All right, so it's gonna go one like this, and then it's gonna circle back like this, and then you're gonna go back out like that. That's why we'll have time to practice. All right, letter B, we're gonna start from the bottom, climb up top. Then once we reach to the A line, we're gonna keep this line as straight as possible. Once you hit the X line, bottom of the X line, then you're going to round it back up to the top of the X line, and then you're going to flick it. Okay. Cursive will require you to exercise the flick of the wrist. Okay. All right. We good? Can we move on to letter C? Okay. Letter C is going to start the same way as the letter A. So from the bottom up, come back down, and then flick. Okay. Letter D, same spiel. You're going to want to create an oval first. And then you're going to climb up to the top of the A line. Drop it down to the X line, and then flick it out. Okay. Letter E is going to start from the bottom, climb up top, and then head over to the left, bring it back down, and then flick. Okay. Letter F is going to start from the bottom of the X line. We're going to climb up just like how we did with the letter B. And then once we start going down, keep that line as straight as possible, except this time, this is a special one, it's going to fall all the way down to the D line. Once you bring it back, it should be in the center over here, and then you're going to flick it out. Okay. So this looks like an elongated letter B, but because it is down to the D line, that's going to be an F. Okay. All right. Next we have the letter G. We're going to start it off just like how we did with the letter A. Climb up, go back in reverse. Except this time, because a G is a descending letter, we need a stem going all the way down to the D line. And then, key thing to make sure, as you are moving and creating the loop, you need to cross it through where the stem intersects the bottom of the X line, okay? Next we have the H, the letter H. We're going to start with the upper loop from the bottom to the top, down, making sure this is as straight as possible. Then you're going to bounce back up with an arch, making sure that the stem and the end of the arch are parallel with each other. And then once you hit the bottom of the X line, then you're going to flick it out. Okay. Then we have the letter I. We're going to start from the bottom, climb up to the top of the X line, drop down the stem, flick. Last but not least, don't forget to dot your I. Okay. Letter J is going to start the same way as the letter I. We simply need to climb up to the top of the X line. Then we're going to drop it down, creating that same loop. Just like how we did with the letter G, we're going to cross through that intersection. Last but not least, dot your J. Okay. Then moving on forward with the letter K. Because it's an ascending letter, we need an upper loop. So therefore, from the bottom, going up, top, down, and this needs to be a straight line. Bounce back up to the top of the X line. You're going to create a little bit of a loop. Then from here, drop a straight diagonal line. Once you hit the X line, it's going to flick. Okay. One more time. Okay, starting from the bottom of the X line, climb up top to the A line, straight line down, loop, diagonal, flick. Okay. Letter L is going to start from the X line, climbing up to the A line, then you drop that line down. Once it hits the X line, you're going to flick. So the letter L looks like a taller letter E, which should not be confused with the letter L, okay, based off of the height. Last but not least, we have our letter M. We're going to start maybe a third into this space right here. Oops, hold on. Actually, no. Forget I said that. We're going to start at the bottom again. Bring it up, down, okay? Bounce back up once more, making sure that these are parallel with each other. And then last one. And then flick it out at the end of that stroke. Okay? Cool, cool, cool. Anyone need me to repeat any letters before we start our individual practice? Yes? K? Okay. All right. Right over here. Start from the bottom. Climb up. Straight line down. Bounce back up, create a loop, straight line, straight diagonal, and then flick. Okay. Any other letters? Okay. Alrighty. So we are going to commence our individual practice. 3 times. Let's go. 3 more times. All right. Starting from the bottom of the X line, we're going to climb up. Oops, I'm sorry. Yes? What happened? Oh, it's okay. It's my honest mistake. So, yes, I immediately saw the K and I was like, okay, L's next. But anyways, we're doing N. And then we need to bring down a hook going all the way down, then from the bottom, bounce back up to the very top. And then once you hit the X line, then we're going to flick it off. Okay. And then next we have the letter O. First we're going to climb up, create an oval. Okay. And then, just like the capital O, we need to introduce Donald Trump's weave.
The what?
Donald Trump's weave. Okay. So doing the O again, climb up, back down, close off the O, and then reintroduce the little curly Q right over there. If they're coming out like circles, we probably need to revisit it. All right. Then we have the letter P. Bottom up to the top of the X line. Drop down the stem all the way down to the D line right here. Then bounce back up and then close it off. Once you've closed it off, then you're going to flick it out. Okay, letter Q is going to confuse a lot of people. So we're going to climb up, back down, oval, then we're going to introduce the stem on the right-hand side. Once you hit the D line, you're going to curve it up from the right-hand side. Okay? And then once you hit this part, then you flick. I can't tell you how many people have mistaken the G's for the Q's and vice versa. Okay. So some people might have wrote the word talking, but then spelled out talking instead. So beware. Be aware. Letter R, you're going to start from the bottom of the X line, climb up to the top of the X line, make a loop, and then from here you're just going to simply curve it back down, take a small little detour, and then you're going to flick it out. Okay?
That doesn't look like an R. I don't like it.
Yes, this R, just like how I mentioned in the previous class, huh?
You do it again.
It's like the uppercase G.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely going to piss people off. But they're so satisfying to write, though, once you get it right. Okay, so you're basically going up, make a loop, out, and then detour and a flick. All right. On to the next one, the letter S. I'm going to start from the bottom over here of the X line. Oops. Let's see. And then I'm going to climb up to the top of the X line. You're going to bring this down, and it should be perpendicular with the paper. So right now it should look like a 90-degree angle. Okay. What does perpendicular mean? It means that it is straight up and down. And then from here, you're going to curve it towards the left in a J stroke. And then you're going to flick it out. Start from the bottom, climb up, J stroke, flick it out. Okay. Letter T, I'm going to start from the bottom, climb up to the top of the A line, and then you're going to go back down with the stem and then flick it off. And then on the top of the X line, you're going to cross it through. That's a T.
There's another one, huh?
Nope. There's no variations for these lowercase letters. All right, letter U is going to start from the bottom, go up, and then you're going to bring it down to create that U shape. That's the letter U. And then from here, you're going to drop down the stem and then flick. Why are we trying to slingshot our hair bands at people?
My hair. So you heard that? I don't have hair.
No.
Letter V, we're going to start from the bottom, climb up, and then back down. And then we're going to curve it up towards the top of the X line right here. And then from here, we're going to flick. Yes. All of these little things at the beginning are the transitional strokes from the previous letter. And then you'll see how it all connects to each other. Okay, letter W. From the bottom, up, down, and then up, down, and up. Then once you hit the top of the X line, you're going to flick it out. Okay. Letter X, you're going to start from the bottom once more. And you're going to climb up, slightly diagonal, and then flick. Then find the midpoint right here, and then cross it through. Okay.
Is it not, like, can you do it the other way?
Huh?
Like the other way, like a capitalize that.
What do you mean?
I don't know, lowercase version. You're not like the other one, like you do the school line. You're not doing it like that anymore?
What do you mean?
Like, no, never mind.
Well, explain to me afterwards. Okay. Letter Y, you're going to start from the bottom of the X line, climb it over, create that U shape, and then drop down the stem, cross it through this intersection right here, and you should be good to go. Last but not least, letter Z. Whoever's whistling, that's enough, please. Thank you. All right, so you're going to climb up, back down, making sure that these two sides are parallel with each other. Then you're going to bring it back down, and then right where this crosses through the X line, swing, right there.
That's yours.
Okay. Anyone need me to revisit any letters before we do individual practice? Yes. The Z. So the letter Z is going to go from the bottom up. Make sure that's parallel. Bring this down to the D line, and then swing it out. Okay, anyone else need me to revisit? Alrighty. So, here we go. Practice 3 more times. Okay. Then connect with the I, flick. Connect with the J, down to the D line, cross it over, flick. Upper loop, down, straight line, bounce back up, loop, diagonal, flick. Wrap around, bring down, flick for letter L. Climb back up. 1, 2, 3 strokes and flick for the letter M. Climb back up. 1 and 2, letter N. Wrap around, oval, Donald Trump for the letter O. Drop down the stem, bounce back up, back to the stem, flick, wrap around, oval, drop down the stem, curve to the right and flick, climb up, mini loop, detour, flick, and then climb up to the X line, drop down, back out to the right. And from here, I'm going to continue on with the letter T. Climb up all the way to the A line, drop down and flick. Wrap around, drop down, back up, drop the stem and flick. Climb up, drop down, go back up, flick. Drop down, back up, down and up, flick. Left leaning diagonal, flick. Drop down, U shape, drop the stem, cross over, flick. Last but not least, climb up, bring in a second arch all the way down to the D line and flick. Then dot your I, J, cross your T, find the midpoint, cross your X. Okay? Practice these 3 times.